I promise that I will get better at these videos. Right now, I am just so in the joy of making them that I'm just making them as messy as they are. Sorry, I do know better. I actually went to film school. I mention that all the time. Anyway, here is what the Enjoy Reviews channel is based on. Beg your pardon. Adam and I were having a conversation, and we were talking about just kind of kicking around the idea of doing a YouTube channel. Not together, but just I wanted to review movies. He wanted to maybe review movies too. Then I remember he came back and he was like, I don't just want to review movies. I want to review the joy that you can find in movies. And I remember him mentioning Warm Bodies, which is a movie I have not seen, but struck me as a very sweet film. And he was telling me about how he thought there was something really inspirational about this zombie who saw a girl and his heart suddenly came back to life. And so he talked about that, and I was really inspired, and I told him, you know, I think that's a lovely way of looking at things. And then later on he mentioned to me, have you ever seen the movie, or have you ever read the book Power versus Force, The Hidden Determinants of Human Behavior by David R. Hawkins, MD, PhD. And I had never heard of this book. I have been working with The Secret for years now, and I feel like I've come a long, long way out of a lot of misery and just seemingly unending misery that I didn't understand why I was there, and it took a long time to realize. But I will tell you my story later. What I want to tell you is why Adam and I are doing this channel, and it's from this chart from Power versus Force. As you can see, I dropped some water on the chart. I'm doing my best. So this was really interesting. This is about the level of vibration that you are at, and the level of vibrations that the emotions in your life give out. So the things that this grid goes the level, which you can go anywhere from beginning. The lowest is shame. That's the most misery that you can feel, is shame, 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 shame. And then it goes all the way up. Believe it or not, other feelings aren't as bad as shame. And it goes all the way up to enlightenment, which, you know, we have written many stories about people in history that have been enlightened. Might have crucified one or two of them. Not a good way to treat someone who's enlightened. But not everyone, not all enlightened people got treated that way. You know, there's just the one that I know of that got driven from his country. That wasn't very nice either. Sorry, Dalai Lama. You're a really cool guy. So anyway, so it goes from shame to guilt to apathy, and I'm going from the lowest to the highest. Shame, guilt, apathy, grief, fear, desire, anger, pride. At pride, there's a crossover to where you're in the more powerful. Okay, so that's where you're doing force, where you're forcing your life. And then you can go up to power, which is a different way of living, and you cross over from pride to courage. And then courage, neutrality, which I think is different than apathy, willingness, acceptance, reason, love, joy. That's us. That's what we're reaching for, Adam and I. Joy, peace, and finally enlightenment. If I do enough joy, will I get enlightenment? Watch the channel and find out. Okay, so the way this thing goes, power, in the force level, the lowest is shame, which is, it logs in at like 20 points. I'm not really sure what that means. Shame, 20. The level of shame is perilously proximate to death, which may be chosen out of shame as conscious suicide or more subtly elected by failure to take steps to prolong life. Ooh, so failure to take steps to prolong life. So you mean like alcoholism and drugs, drug use, and unprotected sex, and junk food. What are all the ways you can choose to not prolong life? In shame, we hang our heads and slink away, wishing that we were invisible. It's destructive to emotional and psychological health and makes us prone to physical illness. Wow, okay, so shame goes along with 20, the number 20. I'm not quite sure what that means. Hopefully will hear from Adam. It's equivalent to the emotion of humiliation, and it creates a life view of misery, being utterly miserable. Oh, this is a really interesting, I'm only just going through this now, and this is very interesting. The next level is a number 30. It logs in as a number 30, and you have guilt. Guilt manifests itself in a variety of expressions such as remorse, self-recrimination, masochism, and the whole gamut of symptoms of victimhood. Unconscious guilt results in psychosomatic disease, accident proneness, and suicidal behavior. I'm not a fan of suicidal behavior. It makes me, even right now, I can feel tears pricking behind my eyes. Guilt provokes rage, and killing frequently is the expression. So guilt creates the emotion of blame, and your life view is evil, meaning you are evil, other people are evil. Oh, I want to run through this as quickly as possible and get to the power part, because I'm already feeling kind of sad and intensely sick to my stomach. Okay, so at a number 50, we have got apathy. Now, I am Generation X, and we were accused of being completely apathetic. And I remember in my teenage years, I was a bit like, who cares? Who cares? So, I mean, I've experienced shame, and I've definitely experienced guilt, and definitely experienced apathy. This level is characterized by poverty, despair, and hopelessness. The world and the future look bleak. Apathy is a state of helplessness. Its victims, needy in every way, lack not only the resources but the energy to avail themselves of what may be available. Unless external energy is supplied by a caregiver, death through passive suicide may result. So I'm trying to think, I must have had a supply from a caregiver back in my teenage years. And I think I did. I had a really nice boyfriend, Chris. I won't give you his last name. But he made sure I got to school, and took me around town and kind of made my life worth living, which is not a healthy place to be, but it was the best I could do at the time. I was apathetic. And I know before that I had been very shameful and guilt-ridden. I went to a religious school, and they really liked keeping you there. Okay, so apathy is at a number 50, and the emotion you feel is despair, and your life view is hopeless. Ooh, boy, oh boy. I do feel like I'm working through different phases of my life. Grief is at a 75. This is the level of sadness, loss, and dependency. Those who live at this level live a life of constant regret and depression. This is the level of mourning, bereavement, and remorse about the past. In grief, one sees sadness everywhere. This level colors one's entire level of existence. Now, grief, I think, is unavoidable. Maybe all of these are unavoidable. I feel like grief is something that's unavoidable, and I feel like it's almost unfair to put it on this list, but then again, I'm not enlightened and I'm just reaching for joy at this point. So grief is at a 75. The emotion you feel is regret, and your life view is tragic. So fear, someone's blowing leaves outside. I hope you can't hear it. Okay. Fear is at 100. So from the viewpoint of this level, the world looks hazardous, full of traps and threats. Once fear is one's focus, the endless worrisome events of the world feed it. Fear becomes obsessive and may take any form. Fear limits growth of the personality and leads to inhibition. Fear limits growth of the personality and leads to inhibition. Ooh, that's nice. Because it takes energy to rise above fear. The oppressed are unable to reach a higher level unaided. What a thought. Now this is interesting because unlike The Secret, I really got the message from The Secret that it's all about you, all about you, all about you. Here it's saying that other people must interact with you to get you out of these holes that you can find yourself in. So fear is at a point log of 100. The emotion you feel is anxiety, and your life view is frightening, that the world is frightening. Desire is at 125. So what I'm taking from this is that a lot of these emotions that I was told were bad, like it's a mortal sin to covet and have desire, can actually be something that motivates you to move. And if you can move out of your fear through desire, you've won in a tiny, tiny way. But hey, it's a win. Take it. Take it. Desire. Desire moves us to expend great effort to achieve goals or obtain rewards. Desire is also the level of addiction, wherein it becomes a craving more important than life itself. Oh dear. Desire, look you, they're being really loud over there. I'm going to move over here. I'm trying to talk about joy. Craving more important than life itself. Desire has to do with accumulation and greed. Want can start us on the road to achievement. Hence, desire can become a springboard to yet higher levels of awareness. Trying to get my microphone closer to my mouth so you can't hear the person blowing leaves outside. Okay, here's really interesting. That desire is at the log number of 125. The emotion you feel is craving, and your life view is disappointing. So the flip side of desire is, if you have desire, it must be that you fear that you're going to lose. If you didn't have desire, it's because you know you're not going to lose, or there is nothing to lose. Easy for me to say. Anger is next, and that's at 150. As people move out of apathy and grief to overcome fear as a way of life, they begin to want. Desire leads to frustration, which in turn leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Okay, just kidding. Anger expresses itself more often as resentment and revenge. Ooh, revenge. Anybody watch Battle for Dream Island? I love Ice Cube. I want revenge. Anger expresses itself most often as resentment and revenge, and is therefore volatile and dangerous. Yes. Since anger stems from frustrated want, it's based on the energy field below it, which is desire. Okay. Frustration results from exaggerating the importance of desires. Anger leads easily to hatred, which has an erosion effect on all areas of a person's life. So anger is at 150. The emotion it creates is hate, and your life view is antagonistic. So whether you're experiencing these things yourself, or whether you're in the workplace experiencing it off other people, you are experiencing their vibrations. And that's one of the reasons why you might maybe have like a a negative reaction to someone that you see is utterly miserable, or I'm going to read off the life views: miserable, evil, hopeless, tragic, frightening, disappointing, and antagonistic. Antagonistic is when they're genuinely trying to make you angry. And if it's working, stop for a minute, count to 10, and find yourself again, because you don't need to be dragged into anything by anybody else. Okay, pride is at 175. In contrast to the lower energy fields, people feel positive as they reach this level. However, pride feels good only in contrast to the lower levels. Pride is defensive and vulnerable because it's dependent upon external conditions, without which it can suddenly revert to a lower level. Pride is fueled by the inflated ego, which is always vulnerable to attack. Hence, the downside of pride is arrogance and denial. These characteristics block growth. So, if you're feeling prideful, you're still not at the top, but hey, you're not at the bottom either. So, if you must be arrogant, be arrogant. It's better than all the other ones. So that's at a level of 175, and the emotion it creates is scorn. And your life view is demanding. So the next time you're stuck behind someone at the grocery shop and the person in front of you is going, "These eggs are 5 cents cheaper, blah, blah, blah." Well, now you know that they are experiencing a level of 175. And you don't have to be dragged into that. Unfortunately, I only have the one page and I can't describe all the good ones. So that'll be my next video. It does say courage, and that's at a level 200, and that creates an emotion of affirmation and a life view of feasible. Do you remember? Yes, we can. I remember it well. So I'm not going to read it because I rather need my glasses. Next time I'll wear my glasses. But anyway, this right here is the conversation that Adam and I had that made us want to do this channel. So we invite you along on our journey towards joy and staying in joy, and using reviews of the world at large, whether they be television shows, movies, books, poems, or whatever the person did in line in front of us at the grocery store. We're going to review these stories with you and see how they create joy or how they maybe block joy. And we're going to be using Power versus Force as our book, as our sort of like go-to book of, well, is this under 200 or is this above 200? And does this create affirmation or does this create scorn? So we invite you along on the journey. We're excited to see where it'll go. And Adam will be uploading from his state. He lives in a different state than me, and I'll be uploading from my state. And you'll be witnessing us talking to one another. Okay, welcome aboard. We're excited to have you. Oh, and we would like to say, find the joy, follow the joy, feel the joy. Okay, bye.